which is why she is the secretary designate, because she does not fulfill the constitutional requirement to hold that job. But I realize that I think parents have an intuitive sense that too much testing isn't good, but not everybody understands the issues. So I don't know that you'll understand the issues any better after I read this thing, but maybe you will. My name is Justin Wecks, and I'm first and foremost a parent of 2 children in Silver Consolidated Schools. Secondly, I'm a kindergarten teacher at G.W. Stout Elementary, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to teach in this community for the last 6 years. Finally, I'm the president of the Silver Consolidated Education Association, our local chapter of the National Education Association, New Mexico, who, along with the American Federation of Teachers, is sponsoring this statewide event. So things like these are going on across the state. It's a statewide deal, and I'm very excited about it. I want to welcome you all and thank you for coming out today. We're all so busy trying to make ends meet in these trying economic times that it's very difficult to find the time to do something like this. We don't have time to meet, we don't have time to talk, to learn, or to organize. But guess what? When we don't meet, when we don't talk, when we don't learn from each other, we start taking the propaganda we hear as truth. Here's the story that anti-public school propaganda is telling us right now in New Mexico. Our students are failing, our teachers are failing, our public schools are failing. I'm here to tell you that it's high time we started meeting, talking with, and learning from each other. If you take the time to talk to an educator, they'll tell you that the propaganda you are hearing couldn't be further from the truth. They know our kids aren't failing because we work with them every day. They know the difficult situations many of their students come into the classroom with. They know about poverty, hunger, homelessness, domestic violence, incarceration, and second language barriers. They witness the struggles and hardships of their students and teach them about perseverance. The pure joy of seeing students struggle, grow, overcome, and succeed is what keeps them in their jobs year after year, despite a 5-year pay freeze from the state, a constantly increasing workload, and a propaganda machine that insists that they are lazy and disinterested at worst and hapless and ineffective at best. If you take the time to talk to a parent, you'll begin to question this picture of our state's teachers. They will tell you a very different story about a caring educator who works with families and nurtures students. They'll tell you that their child loves coming to kindergarten, that their student's 3rd grade teacher has worked with their child tirelessly until finally they are enjoying reading. They'll tell you about a middle school teacher who took an interest in their child and got them excited about math, despite teaching over 100 students a day. They will tell you about a high school biology or English teacher who challenged their student, broadened their horizons, and prepared them for success in college. They'll tell you about a dedicated and insightful special education teacher who, despite a mountain of paperwork, left no stone unturned working with their high-needs student, a teacher who never gave up and facilitated growth that the parent had only dreamed possible. If you take the time to talk to an administrator, you'll begin to question the notion that our New Mexico public schools are failing. They will tell you about the extensive training they have and the long hours they put in to make sure their chronically underfunded school offers as many options as possible for all students to be successful. They'll tell you about teachers arriving at 6 a.m., leaving at 6 p.m., and coming in on weekends. They know because they're working the same hours. They'll tell you that the New Mexico schools are not performing at the bottom of the pack as Governor Martinez insists they are. They know that New Mexico has some of the toughest testing standards in the country, and that states with lower standards will have higher test scores than we do. They'll tell you that the only test standardized across states over time, the NAEP, puts New Mexico in the middle of the pack, not at the bottom. They'll point out that this is a remarkable feat, given our state's low level of funding, high poverty rate, diverse population, large number of second language learners, and our high percentage of rural communities. They will gladly tell you that this is because your students are working hard, They have excellent teachers and are a part of a school dedicated to overcoming adversity and helping all students succeed. After having these conversations, you may come to the conclusion that public schools in New Mexico, in fact, are not failing. Like everyone here who works in a school in any capacity, you may come to the conclusion that given their limited resources and challenging work conditions, public schools are actually working miracles on a daily basis. Having realized this, you may start talking to students, parents, and educators around you and find out that they too have drawn the same conclusion. And yet, despite everything you have discovered about the true nature of public education in New Mexico, Governor Martinez and Secretary of Education designate Hannah Scandera keep insisting that your child, your child's teacher, and your child's school is failing. At what point is enough enough? At what point do you get mad? At what point do you decide to fight back? At that moment, it's time to organize. Do you feel your voice is being heard in Santa Fe? Do you believe in using high-stakes tests to punish educators and label students as failures?
No!
Do you believe that a high school senior who has passed her coursework should not graduate because of her performance on a state-mandated test?
No!
I don't. But my voice isn't being heard, and your voice isn't being heard. Who are Martinez and Scandera listening to? It's not administrators, it's not educators, it's not parents. They aren't listening to their voting constituency at all. Who are they listening to? Testing companies. And those companies are making a fortune on the same tests that are labeling our children and labeling our schools. And the worst part is, it's your tax dollars paying for those tests. I personally don't mind paying taxes to fund education, but I want those hard-earned dollars going to enrich students, not to enrich testing company CEOs. So guess what? If we want our voices to be heard, we have to organize. We have to stand up together, just like we are today. But it can't just be today, and it can't just be us. We need to spread the word, and we need to keep the pressure on. They have been pushing and pushing and pushing. It's time to push back. We are the experts, not them. It's time to demand an immediate change of course. It's time to stop testing our kids to death. It's time to stop labeling our schools as failing. It's time to stop demonizing teachers. It's time to start making public schools a priority. It's time to start funding public education. It's time to start holding politicians accountable for policies aimed at enriching private companies by harming public schools. It's time to make our collective voices heard. Enough is enough.